everybody. Welcome to the Hallmark podcast. And we are back with our fifth, I think, entry in these
Yes.
classic Hallmark Christmas episodes that we've been doing. It's been really fun. And I am film critic Rachel Wagner, and Thaddeus is here.
Hey, back again.
Yes. How's it going?
Oh, pretty well, pretty well. These are some movies, the ones that I hadn't seen in quite a while. So it was
Yeah.
interesting to revisit them.
We picked three for each one of these episodes that we do. And this one, I had only seen one of them before, and it had been a long time. So
Yeah.
it was kind of fun. These are
Mhm.
ones that I've like heard about a lot, but I had just never actually seen.
Yeah, I'd seen two and hadn't seen one.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's very interesting. We're gonna have a lot. I don't think that any of these are all that strong, but I think they all have interesting things to talk about. And they definitely
Mhm.
feel they definitely feel of the moment that they were made.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Well, let's dive in. Let's talk about Eve's Christmas. This was from
Mhm.
2004. So this is when they were just starting
Yes.
making Christmas movies. The synopsis is a wealthy and successful career woman gets a second chance in life when a magical wish transports her back in time 8 years to when she walked away from her fiance to lead a business life in New York. And
Mhm.
this one has so many tropes of like
Mhm.
classic Hallmark movies. If you want
Yes.
to like get an idea of what started these
Yes.
movies, this is a good one to watch.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I am a sucker for this whole idea of like getting a second chance to do make I'm a sucker for this whole idea of like getting a second chance to make your choices again. I think there's
Right.
something really appealing about that as a plot.
Mhm.
So I was really digging it at first, and then it kind of started to lose me a little bit. But
Mhm.
what did you think of it?
Um, I enjoyed it overall. I remember watching this when it first came out, and I think I watched it more than once. So, like over the years, I think I've seen
Yeah.
it like again once or twice over the years. But it's fine. It's not one of my favorites. I will say, like the style and like like the overall production quality kind of reminded me of like the ABC Family
Hmm.
Christmas movies that they used to
Yeah,
do in the early 2000s. It was very similar, even like the kind of the content and like
I can see that.
the themes very similar to that. A little starting to become Hallmarky, but like I said, to me, it looked more like an ABC Family original Christmas
Yeah.
movie than Hallmark.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, and especially having her dating a married man at the beginning,
Mhm.
like shocking.
Yeah. Yeah, she was well, I mean, he had told her that they were separated, and then she was about like ready to end it when she found out that they were like not really separated. But
Hmm.
still, very scandalous,
Yeah,
very.
very much. This was actually written by our friend Peter Sullivan, which is kind of
Mhm.
fun. I don't know if this was his first, but it's probably up there, probably one of his
Yeah,
first.
it must be like, up in early on
Yeah.
in his career as like I guess filmmaker because he what writes, produces, and directs sometimes, right?
Yeah. And it stars Alyssa Donovan and Sebastian Spence, Cheryl
Mhm.
Ladd are in there. And I'm a big Clueless fan, so I always like seeing Alyssa in things, and so
Mhm.
that's fun. And I think that they had actually pretty okay chemistry, her and
Yeah, I thought
Sebastian
so.
Spence.
Thought so. Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I thought it was, suitably like charming and, kind of whatever. But yeah, and then you have Kevin Smith as
Yeah.
her boss.
And
Uh
I think it's good that he went away from the blonde hair.
I'm pretty sure that was a wig. I don't think that was his hair.
It looked terrible.
Um, especially when they went back in time. Uh
Yes.
that was yeah, that had to have been a wig because that was
Yeah.
terrible.
It looked really bad. So she is frustrated because she's not happy, and
Mhm.
she gets pretty sloshed. And
Mhm.
then she meets this guy that's this like panhandler. What did they call him? Brother James is his
Mhm.
name. And then she wishes on the star, Christmas star.
Mhm.
And I mean, she is a mess for Hallmark.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
wow.
I mean, every once in a while you'll see someone get drunk in a Hallmark movie,
Yeah.
but not like that.
Yeah, every once in a while, like I thought of I Married Who or something like that, but in this one, she's just such a mess all around. She's dating this
Hmm.
married man, she's getting drunk, she's unhappy, she's
Hmm.
this bad woman of business basically.
Yeah. Hmm.
And and then she wakes up in her old room
Hmm.
and everything's back in 1996, which is kind of
Yes.
funny.
Yes, and I think they did do a pretty good job of making it look like the 90s.
I think so too.
You
Yeah.
know, and then she's still with her ex-fiance. She's with her parents and her brother, and we're not sure why she's become estranged from her parents. And so we get to, we get to understand that we have her one friend who actually I think came with her or works at the same place with her in New York, and they're from the same hometown.
Yeah. And the friend had a crush on a guy, but never did
Mhm.
anything about it. And
Yes,
then,
never even spoke to him, you
mhm.
know?
And so she's like, well, that's why you end up 40 and alone.
Mhm. Yeah.
There's absolutely no fake snow in this movie.
N
None.
Maybe it was snowing in the beginning when she was in New York, but then when she goes back in time, yeah, there's
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
They
Well, like no like snow on the
Mhm.
that's true there. And then at the end there's at the wedding there's a little bit of digital snow, but as far as like there's no blankets of snow and things
Oh,
like that
no.
on the
Nope.
yeah, which is always interesting that that's something that
Mhm.
definitely changed around I think 2015 is
Yes.
that every movie had to have snow.
They had to be covered in snow pretty much every
Yeah,
scene.
yeah.
Every out exterior shot had to have snow on it, so
Mhm. The thing that I started to lose me on this movie is that I didn't buy that she would basically make all of the same decisions again that she had made the first time. And then finally she straightens up at the very end. But there was so long of the movie where I was like, really? Would you be taking the calls and accepting the job offer and when you knew how things had ended? That didn't
yeah.
seem to make much sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I kinda got it in that, you know, I think with her, she was more kinda the same person, um, when she went back in time, and she was I don't know I didn't really get it, to be honest. I felt like she was kind of like fighting herself, and like she was trying to like I don't know if she was trying to maintain her independence. I really yeah, it didn't
It
make
just
much sense
seemed
to me either, you
Yeah,
know?
it just seemed weird to me that if you knew that it hadn't turned out well,
Mm,
like then why wouldn't you at least want to try something different?
yeah.
That
Um,
seemed strange to me.
yeah. Yeah, it did. It was a little odd, and especially, so yeah, we see how unhappy she is at the beginning
Yeah.
of the movie, and so for her to just like you said, like entertain this job, she knows that she's going to be very unhappy in this job. But I guess we're supposed to think that she also doesn't believe that she'll really be happy staying in her hometown. Um, and then, she decides to steal eBay slash Amazon
She creates eBay and
stuff
Amazon.
to, you know, to make her boyfriend's little bookstore a success. And then,
Yeah.
of course, somehow I mean, obviously they become really successful with that because, you know, she What I just loved it. I was like, "Oh, yes, we can
Yeah, that was
sell
really
people
funny.
online, and then we can have people, we can have auctions online for
Yeah.
things." And I was like, "Okay, okay, movie. We see what you're doing here."
Yeah.
Uh, and then, she and, her and Sebastian Spence, I guess they end up in New York anyway. So I guess he does decide eventually to leave the small town, but because I don't know. Yeah, that whole like conflict or whatever didn't really make sense. They didn't dive into it enough to
Mm.
say. So you're right. Like they didn't explain like why they didn't explain enough like why she wanted to leave. When and give enough motivation when we saw how unhappy she was in with the job and everything and the relationship and everything in New York. I also it was I it, they didn't fully explain like why she became estranged from her parents.
Yeah,
It
I
seemed like,
didn't I felt that too.
yeah, it seemed like, it was like I guess she thought that they were upset with her for leaving, and so she decided not to speak to them because she assumed that she was angry, but they didn't like really explain that. And so I didn't really get that at all. Like she just left and didn't talk to her parents, didn't go back home ever. You know, it was very strange.
Ho, ho, ho! We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
Didn't understand why her wedding planner was was behaving the way that she was. I didn't quite get it. I mean, it's obviously supposed to be the comic relief,
Mhm.
but it was like the wedding planner like didn't care about her opinion at all. Like
Mhm.
it was weird. I thought that was like it really wasn't that funny,
Mhm.
and I was just kind of like, what are they trying to do with this insane wedding that's been
Mhm.
planned?
Yeah, I don't
Because it's
know.
not like her parents were like snobs and, oh, we need this super fancy wedding.
Mhm.
And I didn't see why she would want that or care about
Mhm.
that. And so I thought that was just an odd part of the movie
Yeah.
was the wedding.
Yeah,
Eh,
but I mean, I felt like it was fun enough. I did like her like helping her best friend to finally talk to the
Yeah.
guy. They and when they go and when she goes wakes back up in 2004, they're married. So
Hmm.
so she did help with that.
I
Um,
also thought it was funny when she makes the tofu. That was
oh yeah,
funny.
yes,
They're like,
yes,
what is this
yeah.
squishy?
What is this? And they were like, oh, you don't like it? She's like, it's just different.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, but my favorite, I guess, part of the movie was just the concept of like if you had a do-over. I think that's interesting. But then also, I did think that anytime they were together was pretty good.
Yes,
Uh,
I think they had pretty good chemistry.
mhm,
I liked them together. I liked like seeing her conflict of like her at first saying, oh, like you saw how like happy she was to see him and but she was kind of fighting, falling back in love with him
mhm,
or like accept I think she kind of never really had fallen out of love with him. But
mhm,
and so that conflict in her was kind of interesting, but and that didn't make and that kind of made a little bit of sense.
mhm,
It's like I guess for her, maybe she wanted to like hold on to like this life that she had built for herself because if she changed things, I guess she would be admitting that she made the wrong decision or something. And maybe she didn't want to have to say that. but they didn't really say that in the script. That's like the only thing that I can
Hmm.
come up with to make her behavior make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they were trying to say that she had to decide between city and country, but actually she didn't.
Yeah.
That that she could have had it all. She could
Hmm.
have gotten married and been happy and been successful and had the, the
Hmm.
city life and everything. And I think that's kind of what they were trying to say. But like you do have the problem in these kinds of stories that now if 'cause assuming this new timeline is her her life for the rest of her life, she wouldn't have there would be like 5 6 years that she would have no
Hmm.
memories of that she wouldn't
Yeah.
have their marriage. She would be very
And
confused.
yeah, she's gonna be asking a lot of questions for a while.
Yeah.
But and I think part of it, we have to know that it was meant to be for her to go to that she had to live this life in 2004. Otherwise, she wouldn't have learned about Amazon or eBay
Yeah.
to make a life success, so that she could have it all. So she had to go back to 2004 and steal that idea to come back
Yeah.
to 1996 and share that so that they could be,
Yeah.
mega successful.
In this alternate timeline, wonder what Jeff Bezos is doing.
She
whoever
stole his life.
whoever invented eBay, I don't know who that is. But yeah, you're not supposed to kind of think about that. You're just supposed to enjoy it, which I get. But she wishes on the star and then she wakes up in New York City. And like, I did not believe that she would write this letter again, the exact same letter that she had
Yeah.
written before. Like, that just doesn't make sense. If things hadn't gone well, like you might still decide to leave him, but you wouldn't write the same letter that you'd written before.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. But he finds the letter and then she says, I took the road to success, but I was miserable because I didn't have anyone to share it with.
Hmm.
And then he says, I know what's down that road, and that's not where I want to be. I want to be with you. Very
But she
sweet.
had, and but the thing is, she wrote the letter, but then she decided not to give it to him. She decides to go through with the wedding, but he still
Yeah, he
finds
finds
the
the
letter,
letter.
and basically, she is about to get left at the altar before she, goes to like explain, every what happened. So
Hmm.
thankfully, she gets to him in time, and they still get married, and still, and then she wakes up 6 years later, and they're still married somehow. So in New
Yeah.
York.
And she tells the Calvin Smith off.
Hmm.
Neil, I think
Yeah,
his name was Neil. She tells him off.
yeah.
And that's kind of a fun scene.
Yes, yeah, I liked that scene.
She's not interested in being a notch on his bedpost.
I like, ooh, Hallmark saying that.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, I think this script could have had like another pass. It
Mm,
it wasn't quite there,
yeah,
but I think it was a fun concept,
yeah,
good cast, overall enjoyable.
yeah. I think that the acting was pretty good. And I agree. Like there were just a couple things that needed to like be explained a little bit better.
Hmm.
And then I would have enjoyed it a little bit more and understood why she was making some of the choices that she was making when she had like this chance to like um to redo and change the
Hmm.
decisions that she makes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I probably would have had her instead of I probably would have done more the family man kind of thing, like had her instead of waking up married, still married, I would have just had her wake up and be like, oh, I gotta find him, find Scott,
Mm.
and then go and find him and then get married
Mm.
and rather than this like new timeline.
Well, I don't
But
really
it
mind the timeline too much,
it
but
kind of reminds me of one of the Treehouse of Horror on The Simpsons. He goes through different time, and
mhm,
uh, and then finally Homer sits down, and he's like, everything looks pretty normal, except
mm,
for says except for everybody in the family has lizard tongues.
mm.
He's like, close enough.
And so
Yeah.
I don't mind it too much. I am glad that they didn't give them children because that would have been really weird.
Oh yeah, that's true. That would have been weird. I don't know. I just think that it could have been a little bit of a better ending, but it's not bad what they have. And um, I just I was frustrated when watching it because I'm like, what is she doing? Why would she even consider this as an option?
Hmm.
And then they kind of brought it around.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did think it was funny that they have her have a cell phone at all in
Hmm.
1996. Like they have this big one, but I don't
Hmm.
really know anybody, especially like a small town. I didn't know anybody who had a cell phone in 1996.
Yeah. I knew people who had the little phones in the car, but not like an
Yeah,
actual cell phone.
right.
But the cell phones they did have, they were even bigger than that at that time, if I'm not mistaken. The
Yeah,
flip
by
or late.
99 more people had them, so
Mhm.
that's when The Way Home is set. I got
Mhm.
my first one in 2000, but
Mhm.
but I think by I got a Cricket phone in 2000, and so they were much more like widely. And by the time 9/11 happened, like everyone had one.
Mhm.
Um, and so, but 1996, not that many,
Mhm.
I would say. But yeah, I think overall it's a fun watch. And it was fun to see like the fashion and other things from 1996 that they
Mhm.
tried to put in. So I would give this one like a 3.5, I think.
Yeah, I'll do like 3.25.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. A brighter future awaits if she can escape the shadows of the past. In After the Shadows by Amanda Cabot, the first book in the Secrets of Sweetwater Crossing series, a young widow returns to her hometown in Texas Hill Country, never dreaming that the new school teacher holds the key both to the mystery surrounding her father's death and to her heart. Library Journal says her sensitivity and realistic portrayal of characters often on the margins of history really shine in this new historical series. Check out After the Shadows today at bakerbookhouse.com and get 30% off and free US shipping. That's 30% off and free US shipping at bakerbookhouse.com, or you can use our affiliate link in the description.
All right. So we have an old-fashioned Thanksgiving, and this
Mhm.
is one I had heard about because it was so different, but I had never seen.
Mhm.
Um, and for Hallmark to do a period piece like this that really feels like a feature as far as production values.
Mhm.
I mean, but so I was kind of excited to finally actually watch it. But
Mhm.
in the late 1880s, a widowed mother of three struggles to keep her family intact and to put food on the table. The oldest daughter sends a letter to her strange, very wealthy grandmother, urging her assistance, much to her mother's disapproval. When the grandmother arrives, old wounds are opened, but eventually healed. From a story by Louisa May Alcott.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I had never seen this before. And I mean, I would love if Hallmark did
Mhm.
more films on this kind of level as far as the
Yes.
production and the it was pretty impressive. And I guess it did. I mean, this just shows the difference between now broad between cable now and then. This
Mhm.
was aired in 2008, and it had a 5.2 million viewers
Mhm.
for the airing, and making
Mhm.
it the highest gross cable movie of the premiere day and week. It also ranked number one in the time period for household and total viewer ratings and deliveries,
Mhm.
and boosted the network to rank first in prime time for the day. This made Hallmark Channel rank sixth for the week. I mean,
Mhm.
5.2.
Yeah. That's
That's
pretty good.
really, really high.
Yeah.
The highest last year was 3.9, I think, for
Mhm.
Three Wise Men. So
Mhm.
that's how much things have changed since
Yes.
2008, which I
Yeah, I
thought was
guess,
kind of interesting.
and I think part of it, I mean, it's I think they're still figuring out how to do ratings with streamers,
Yeah,
so it's a little different.
it's true
Um,
because you have the people watching on DVR, you have the people watching on like Peacock or the streaming. So that's true as well. But I mean, 5.2. I think the only thing that got like 5.2 last year would be something like Yellowstone had ratings that high. But anyway, and it stars Jacqueline Bisset, Helene Joy, Tatiana Maslany, our She-Hulk. Is,
Oh, wow.
yeah, is who would have guessed she'd have a future in the MCU? But yeah, so this movie, I kept feeling like I would have just rather been watching Little Women. It's just not as good a story as Little Women, as good of characters.
Yeah.
And I kind of just wish that they had just made a version of Little Women instead of this other story.
Yeah, for me, like, going in from the beginning, like, it made it feel, it was difficult for me to fully, like, sympathize with the characters because they go straight in with the Tilly character writing this letter to the grandmother, and impersonating her mother in the letter, and, making up this wild story about the father being kidnapped by gypsies, and then what he went to war or something, and was kidnapped by gypsies when there wasn't really a war at that time.
Yeah.
And they and they were talking about, like, the family being in dire straits financially, and through most of the movie, up until, like, kind of the middle, maybe, like, closer to the end, we don't really see that they're that bad off financially. Like, they seem to be pretty comfortable.
Yeah, the only thing that we see is that they can't afford a Thanksgiving dinner. There's the whole
Right.
conversation with the son of like, we can't have mashed potatoes, we can have turkey, we can't have, because they're so
Yeah.
poor.
And that's not even like, and that's like later on in the movie. I wish that, I would have felt it would have introduced her a little bit more if, like, we had seen them struggling a little bit earlier on in the movie. And that prompts her to, like, okay, well, I know that I have a rich grandmother or something. And so I'll write this letter. I don't understand why she didn't just say that she was her granddaughter, or, why she had to make up this wild story. I think, well, we do see later on that Tilly, like, likes to write stories, and that she wants to be a writer. But so it made sense later on. But I prefer to have, the characters a little bit more established before they do, like, really outlandish things. So
Yeah.
we
I
can
mean, there is
end
that
up.
whole conversation beginning about they're going to have no Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah.
And they basically act like they are starving, that there's no food for like, there's no food. And she doesn't know anything about her mother's family. I'm not even sure how she even knows the grandmother, or knows the address for the grandmother.
Well, it seems that her friend, the what was it, Christopher Turner's character,
Mhm.
had, like, when he went on his little expedition for 5 years, whatever he was doing, he somehow found out about the grandmother,
Oh yeah,
and and had
I forgot
given
about
her
that.
the contact information for the
Mhm.
grandmother. Um, and so she decides to write to the grandmother, like, as their mother. She
Yeah.
doesn't. Yeah, it just, I don't know, it's just.
I just thought that there was too argumentative. I mean, I know that, let's say in Little Women, there are points where they argue. I mean, obviously the whole scene with Amy burning Joe's book, and them being bitter, but like, it's more of like a little vignette in the
Mhm,
life of these people than it is like the whole tone of the movie, right?
mhm.
For Little Women or book. Whereas this just felt like, boy, I'm really not enjoying these characters. They're just
Yeah,
so mean to each other, and they're just so, I don't know,
yeah, and so,
fighting.
yeah, I agree. And like I said, I felt like if they had started it earlier, we see them struggling. We see her asking her mother about the grandmother, and the mother's kind of cagey, and doesn't really want to answer, and so we kind of, so you know so it's doing more of showing us, not telling us
Mhm.
everything. Would have been, I would have been able to sympathize with the characters a little bit better, personally.
Well, and
So
I didn't think that her mother made much sense because she she went off with this man who her mother thought was a vagrant and
mm,
of no good. And yet then when Tilly gets engaged to Gideon, she says she refuses to give her blessing, which seemed very hypocritical to me. That she hates her mother, and yet isn't she just behaving exactly like her mother, if not worse?
well, I think this one she didn't say that she would refuse to give the blessing like indefinitely. She wanted her to like go with the grandmother and explore and whatever, um, before she committed to marrying him. And then if she came back and wanted to marry him, then she would give her blessing, which actually to me kind of made a little bit of sense because from so much of the movie we see that Tilly wants to be a writer. Then all of a sudden
Because
the guy proposes, she says yes, and she's like, "Oh, I thought you wanted to be a writer." She's like, "No, I don't."
well, is there any proof that he wouldn't have gone with her to New York? Like why they couldn't have gone as a couple? I know it just felt hypocritical to me that like
Yeah,
I just felt like the mom's character, she would be the first one to be on kind of love's side instead of
yeah.
breaking up this
Well,
couple.
she didn't want to break them up. She said that you could, she was putting a delay because remember his character had been gone like off exploring and in college or whatever for like 5 years, and then
Because
he
he's
came back and
because he
wanted.
says a minute is too long to be
Yeah,
apart. And I was just kind of like, oh, why couldn't they have just gotten married and gone up to New York?
well, to me personally, I actually agree with it. I understand what she was doing. Like he got to explore, see if this is what he really wanted to do, and she didn't get to do that. All she was stuck at in their little town, and I guess apparently struggling financially and everything. And so she gotten an opportunity to like
Yeah.
go with her grandmother to see more of the world, to kind of to travel, to gain more education and everything, and then to see like what other opportunities and options she had.
I kind
And
of wish they had had an epilogue showing them getting married or something. I don't know. I just was like, oh, I want them to get married. I don't want them to be apart.
yeah, I see. I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
And I, like I said, I understood where they were, where she was coming from, and she wasn't saying like, don't ever get married. You can't. He's not good enough. It was,
Hmm.
he's gotten this chance to like go out. He knows for sure this is what he wants because he's seen what else is out there, and you haven't.
Yeah.
And I actually, I I think
I
that
can
that
see what
is,
you're saying.
yeah,
I can see what you're saying. I guess for me, I just kept thinking the whole time I would just rather be watching Little Women. Like Little Women
mhm,
is very similar to this, but it's
yeah,
better in every way. Like the
yeah,
characters are better, the story's better, and it has like some of the same archetypes and some of the same things, but I don't know, it just kept feeling like they should have just made Little Women instead of this.
I won't argue with that.
Yeah.
That
And there
Little Women.
was too much fighting, but I didn't like hate it. I just would rather be watching Little Women.
Yeah, so for me, like I I just, didn't really like any of the characters.
Yeah,
um,
that's the
and I think
problem.
and I think that's what when you say like they're pretty much fighting the whole time. The grandmother like seems completely like out of touch with like their reality. The mother is just so closed off and
Yeah.
like bitter that we don't get to understand like her motivations as much until like much later on into the film. Tilly, I mean, I have a little bit more grace for her because she's like a kind of a flighty teenager, and so you can kind of have, a little grace for that. But she was still kind of annoying to me.
Hmm.
So, when I go through and like the main characters are, I don't really like,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to enjoy the movie. So,
Yeah, I mean, I would give probably a 3, maybe just for the production values alone, maybe
mhm.
3.25. But there is a sequel, An Old Fashioned Christmas. So I feel like we have to do that one
Oh
of these
yeah, we
days.
do.
We
We
have to
do.
watch it.
Yeah, I think we do. So we'll see, and you'll see they're probably Tilly and whatever his name is probably did get married at the end. She comes back, maybe she comes back and she's a little like, I could see her being kind of like
Yeah.
uppity, and then something happens and she decides that she wants to get back with after Christopher Turner's character.
Mhm.
I guess I'll, I'll give it like 2.75. Uh,
Mhm.
the production value was pretty good. I do enjoy like period type pieces. Um, but for me, like the characters just weren't
Yeah.
that likable, so it's tough.
I was
Yeah.
really hoping it would be this sort of hidden gem because I've heard about it and I knew it was just this really unusual project that Hallmark doesn't do very often. And so I was hoping I'd love it because I do love period pieces and things like
Hmm.
that. But yeah, it wasn't. I'd again just rather watch Little Women.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Okay.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
So then we have the National Tree was our third one, and it's a teenager has his Sitka spruce tree chosen to be planted outside the White House as the new national Christmas tree.
Hmm.
And this is very interesting. There was so much in this movie that was like 2009. Like we're
Yes,
here.
very much.
There's
Oh my
so
God. I love it brought back memories, I have to
yes,
say.
it did.
Uh, so,
And I was thinking this was Hall of Fame, but I guess it wasn't.
mm.
I guess it was just a regular movie, 2009. Overall, what did you think of this one?
I really enjoyed this. This is the only one of the three that I hadn't seen before. And
Okay.
I was pleasantly surprised. I really liked all three of like the main actors. I thought Evan Williams was, his character was a little, kind of quirky, but and he kind of had like that. He had that thing going, like the old like YouTube content
Yes.
creator.
He was like a Zoomer before it was
Yes,
cool.
yes, and I loved like when he was having his little when he was having his little video chats with his
Yeah.
friend. He had to have like the four separate like things open for each of them because at that time
Yeah.
they didn't have one where you could all be on at the same time. So I remember like when we would we had to do stuff like that. So I
I mean,
thought that
he's
was
ready for quarantine. I mean,
yes,
no problem.
yes,
Yeah, it was really funny how they
mhm,
were making him seem like so cool. He's out there
yes,
vlogging and
yes. They even
I,
like they knew the term like vlog and
yeah,
yeah, it was hilarious. And then they
I
were so surprised that his grandmother had been like following the vlog.
yeah, on the vlog. And it was funny to me that whenever they would show it from the point of view of his camera, it was always 35-minute battery. Always.
Yeah, of
Like
course.
he always had 35-minute battery. And I mean, I don't think that I would want to watch any of his vlogs because it was always so like
Mhm.
jumbled and mixed. Like, oh, you get sick watching his blogs. I'm like, the man needs emotion, like one of those steady cam things.
Yes, but that was before that time. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Do you think that he would be a big star, big vlogger star in 2009?
Yeah, I'm sure he would have a nice little audience
Yeah.
there, you
And
know.
his dad, played by Andrew McCarthy, is old school. He's not into
Yes.
all this newfangled stuff.
Nope.
He doesn't have a cell phone.
And he's like really sad about, the son, being about to leave home,
Hmm.
to go to college. I mean, Evan Williams has made his intentions known. He does not plan on staying in that little town in Oregon. He
Yeah.
is, or yeah, Oregon. He is about the world, and his father's like really struggling with that. So he has entered the tree that he was given pretty much at planted for at birth. Um, and entered into the contest for the national tree because apparently, was the previous national tree got struck by lightning during a storm,
Yes.
and
So then they had a contest,
and he
and
wins the
yeah,
contest.
he wins the contest, and so it's this big promotional thing for this toy
Hmm.
company that Faith is representing, played by
Hmm.
Carrie Matchett, and immediately they do not. Andrew McCarthy's character does not get along with Faith. Of course, you know that means they are supposed to be together, but she's
Yes.
like engaged, but her fiance is unhappy
Hmm.
that she's spending all of this time with the tree and everything like that. And I can
Hmm.
understand that, I guess, but like it's not like this is an everyday activity that she's doing
Hmm.
with the tree.
Yeah.
Like this
But
is,
she's gonna miss Thanksgiving with his family in New
yeah,
York.
she's gonna
That's,
miss
I mean,
Thanksgiving.
you know.
But again, if it was, I would be more concerned if this was like daily something that's going to be happening, then we like need to work it out in our relationship. But if this is just this one trip, I would be uh more forgiving, I think,
Yeah.
as far as, but he's not
So
happy.
he's a little unreasonable, and so you know so so of course that relationship isn't long. We don't even get to
No,
see him.
we don't even
So
see him.
uh,
But they offer 5K cash prize, and he says, this is my chance to get out of here, to do something cool, to meet the
mhm,
president.
yes. And his father is like, I don't trust these people to like take care of this tree. I don't, she said that there was going to be an
Hmm.
arborist that was going to like escort them, and he was like, and then, you know, and he was really reluctant at first, but then, he when in speaking with his friends, we get to understand a little bit more about his reluctance,
Yeah.
and
But I
then
don't think that most teenagers would be that excited about meeting the president.
I think
You
there's a good
think?
amount.
He was
Yeah,
like, this is so cool. We're meeting the president.
I mean, I think sure, I can buy that. That's the least. I mean, yeah, I could definitely buy that. There are plenty of teenagers that would be excited about that.
I
Um,
guess. I don't spend much time around teenagers, but it just seemed like a little bit like, is that the cool? Would that be cool? It's not
I
like
guess
it's,
for him, I mean,
yeah, I
he's like
guess. I
out in the
guess.
middle of nowhere, so.
Yeah. But he was charming, and
Hmm.
we part of the reason we wanted to talk about this because Evan Williams, of course, is in The Way Home
Hmm.
and on Hallmark now. So it's kind of fun to see him as a teenager
Yes.
here. So they start on the trip, and he says that he said, the dad says, do you have to film everything?
Yeah.
It's like,
And he
no,
was
this
like,
is a
that's part
reality
of it.
show.
Yeah, and they were putting the vlog on the website
Yeah.
to like promote the whole tree. So that was just part of what he was going to be doing.
Yeah, because there's like
But
groupies. People are coming out to see the tree.
yes, yes, and they make a stop every day, and
Hmm.
for like their little promotions, and they have people that come. The biggest one, on the way was the one in Chicago, and Evan Williams is just soaking it up. He is just loving
Well, by
uh,
that
that
time,
attention.
it had
Hmm.
kind of built up. Like people
Hmm.
knew about it, and
Yeah.
it did make me laugh when they go through Utah
Mhm.
And it says Mormons, the jazz, the
Yeah.
Olympics, and the Mormons.
Yes. Yeah.
That
And
was
then
funny.
yeah, that was kind of funny. And then of course they make a stop in Idaho, which is where his little crush is. Right?
Yes, which was
And
bonkers. That
yeah,
whole scene when I mean, the whole plot line when she is hiding out in the truck,
yeah,
and she finally knocks on the door because she's freezing to
yes. That
death.
was crazy. Like they didn't think, I mean, it's teenagers. They don't think a lot of times they don't think these types of things through.
Like,
But yeah, so the father's just like, no, she can't come. Or even if her parents said she can come, she can't. And it's, obviously it's because he wants this to kind of be like a father-son bonding things, like a last kind of hurrah before he leaves for college, but he can't or won't say that. And so of course, their solution is to have her stow away and
yeah.
ride with the tree.
But
And
before that, you had the fire scene, which was pretty good, I thought. Pretty well done.
wait, oh yes, yes, yes,
Driving
yes.
through the fire.
Oh yes, when they were driving through that through the forest fire.
Yeah.
I that was pretty good. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, they had budget for that's why I
Yeah.
was sure this was Hall of Fame, but it wasn't.
Yeah. I thought it was
Oh,
too. And
mm,
but that I mean that was pretty decent
mhm.
special effects and just the way it all played out. Like
Yeah,
because I would be terrified driving a truck like that.
yes.
Let alone as a teenager. And then to have your dad on the back trying to hose, he was like hosing it down, like trying to keep
Mhm.
it. I mean, it was like an action scene in a Hallmark
Yes.
movie.
Yes, that. I was really impressed by that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I mean, I guess that, these Hall of Fame movies have a little more budget, but this wasn't a Hall of Fame.
Yeah. That's
But it was
surprising.
during the time that they were doing less movies, so they had a little bit more money probably allotted to the movies that they did make. So
Hmm. Yeah. So we also get to meet his grandmother, uh,
mhm,
played by Jane Eastwood, who's always
yeah,
great.
yes.
She played Miss Hammond in the old Anna Green Gables, and
Okay.
so she was like a terrible, terrible person, really mean to Anne,
Hmm.
and so I always kind of have to put that out of my mind
Hmm.
because like she is great. I love her. And but yeah, she's in this as the grandma, and she's been following along,
Hmm.
and then it's after the visit with the grandma that Katie is freezing and
Yes.
so
Hmm.
um, and I guess you're supposed to be fine with this because they have been friends online. Like it went from virtual to
Hmm.
in real life. I think they
Yeah.
call it that. Oh, what did there's something about the relationship being virtual.
Yes.
Uh, but Rock, he says, I'm not going to Washington without Katie. So he
Right.
sticks up for his girl.
Yes.
He says Rock wants to be there more than anything else, but he's standing by his girl.
Yeah.
And basically, his vlog is kind of similar to like TikTok now, don't you think?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
back then they didn't have it, so it would have just been on YouTube
Yeah.
probably.
Well,
But
and
yeah,
it was just on his it, like seemed like it was on his own website
mm,
that the vlog was. It was I forget what it was called. It was like Rocks Builders or something like that. I forget
mm.
what the name,
Yeah,
but
he probably wasn't that popular then if it
yeah.
was just on his little website. But
And
yeah,
I have to like this is such an awesome country, especially when you're lucky enough to drive across it.
yes.
Have you ever done a cross country drive?
No, I haven't. I will, but I do want to eventually one day.
Yeah.
Um,
I never have. I've never done all the way across the whole country. I've done lots of times, gone from Utah to California many, many, many,
mhm,
many times. Um and then I've gone from Utah to Southern California, Utah to Sacramento area. I've done that. That's probably the longest drives that I've done. But
mhm. Yeah, my
But
longest drive has been from Maryland to Nashville when I was in medical school.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it would be fun with the right group of people.
Yes,
It
yes,
could be
yes.
miserable with the wrong people.
You got to find the right group to do that.
Yeah. And then they end up with I forget which stop it was that people made them a whole Thanksgiving dinner. That was like out east, I
I
think.
think it was Pennsylvania. It was somewhere in
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. And and then soon after that, what's Faith gets a phone call from her boss about
Yes.
the stand and the people being, ready to, like, you know, what is
Well,
it, burn the tree,
they say they're going to erect the tree, not plant
not
it.
plant it.
And so it
And
gets a lot of tension because that's not the plan. But the greedy business people, they are like, well, we can do this every year. It's such a big hit
yes,
but it's so stupid because why would people want to watch you destroy the tree every year? Like, people think you're planting it. They're not going to be cheering along for like, yay, you're destroying the tree.
yes. And I
That
mean,
does.
I think the novelty would eventually wear off. You can't do this every year.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so she gets a phone call from the boss who's, talking about the plans to, erect the tree rather than plant it as they had originally discussed. And, at first she's like, oh, is there some type of mistake? So she waits till the next day
Hmm.
to call and confirm. And by that time, they're already in DC and they're preparing to have the tree erected. And she goes and tells them, and she said she just found out there wasn't really much she could do. And of course, Drew McCarthy's character is furious with her,
Yeah.
with her. And it's all her, obviously it's all her fault. She obviously knew this the whole time. She lied to him, she misled him,
Yeah. And
and
then, but he's kind of far away and he
mhm,
doesn't have the cell phone. And so then Katie goes and gets him and says,
mhm.
we got to go. We got to save the tree. We got to stop
Yeah,
them from killing our tree.
yes. And so they have like a big group of people that are protesting the, the destruction of the tree. And Rock like stands in front of the tree that the police are like threatening to arrest him.
Hmm.
So then Faith and Andrew McCarthy's character also get on, and you know and and they have the support of the crowd, and of course they have to relent.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
tree.
Well, no, they aren't going to until they get a particular phone call from the
Oh,
big man.
oh yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. From the president. The president calls, tells them to plant the tree. And I was a little bit surprised that they didn't have like an Obama clone, kind of Obama look-alike. Because this would have been as for the
Oh yes, would have
president.
been
Yeah,
you know, the Obama.
2009.
Hmm.
So, but anyway, yeah, he calls, and then we also had a scene where the Great Equalizer is evidently karaoke. It's the Great Equalizer. So I have to ask, do you have your go-to karaoke song that you do if you have to go to
Uh,
karaoke?
when I do karaoke, I like to do Nat King Cole
Oh,
when I do karaoke.
nice. Well, that they didn't do Christmas songs, which is a little bit surprising. And now that you definitely would have that. But my go-to is Wide Open Spaces,
Oh
the
yes.
Dixie Chicks. It's like it's a super safe range and it's
Hmm.
a like good song for that kind of thing. I know I can pull it off.
Right. Yes.
So that's my go-to. But then yeah, Rock and Faith handcuff themselves to the tree so that they can't kill the tree.
Yes.
And then this tree is America. We need to nurture and protect it just like our country.
Yeah.
It was a little corny. This movie had some corny lines.
Yeah, it did. But
Yeah.
to me, like the way that they set up, you know, particularly Rock's character, he was kind of corny, but
Yeah.
but like it was, but his corniness was charming. So
Yeah, no,
I,
I enjoyed it. I just it was a little like, okay, this is
yeah,
really cheesy.
yes,
But yes, and then we end with a kiss between Corey and Faith.
hmm
We'd had a number of kisses between Katie and Rock,
yes,
young love.
yes. And I think what made this, like, according to this movie work is that I think they I think the movie knows that Rock is kind of like corny and that he thinks he's cool, but he's really not.
Yeah.
And so that was and so that was part of the humor to me.
Hmm.
Like this kid is just oh Lord. But
And sometimes I enjoy a little bit of cornball, especially
yes,
Christmas. So it works.
yes.
And
I
it's
like self-aware corniness. I'll
yeah,
say that.
yeah, yeah,
And this movie seems self-aware about the corniness.
yeah.
So mhm.
So I would give this one a 4. I overall enjoyed it. I thought it
Yeah,
was a nice story.
yeah, me too. I would give it four crowns. I enjoyed this one, and like I said, this is the only one of the three that I had not seen before, and I enjoyed it. I was pleasantly surprised,
Mhm.
and
Well,
actually thinking for some reason that it was another movie. The
oh,
there was another Christmas tree movie that I was thinking about, but but it's a different movie. I forgot the
mhm.
title of the other movie.
Yeah. So if you're listening, let us know what you think of these 3 movies. If you've seen them, they were all available to
Mhm.
stream. I
Yeah.
think I watched Eve's on Tubi, I think. And then Old Fashioned Thanksgiving was on YouTube.
Eve's
Uh,
Christmas is also on YouTube.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then The National Tree is on Hallmark Movies Now.
Yes.
So you can watch it on there if you have that. So yeah, let us know what you think. If you've seen either of these 3, we'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you have any suggestions for pre 2013 that are
hmm
kind of our cutoff for this, let us know your suggestions. And and you can find me at Rachel's Reviews all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast, the Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And we'll have the playlist to the other episodes that we've done. This is our 15th classic that we've done in this series.
Yeah.
This is our 15 movies that we've done so far,
Yes.
which is kind of fun. So I'll
Mhm.
have that in the description. And we also, if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. And if you are listening on and watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have the Patreon group and merch store, which Thaddeus is a member of the patrons.
Yes.
Yes. So we appreciate that so much. So check that out. And thanks, everybody. And Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry
Bye,
Christmas.
everyone.